change gears a little bit. Google, obviously, because you operate in a global context, you have to work within the framework of laws within every country. I found it very interesting. We ran search engine strategies in China last March, and when I was there, I interviewed the president of Google China as well. We had a little conversation like this. But in my searching, I found it very interesting because at the time there was a lot of controversy about Google, quote, censoring search results over there. And yet on the google.cn homepage, in plain sight, was a link to google.com. And so one clicked to that, and basically it appeared to be the same results that I was getting at google.com at home. How does Google, it seems like kind of a delicate dance with these governments. How do you balance the sort of rights and the sense of giving people the unfiltered information with the laws of the countries that you have to operate within?
Absolutely, and this is a little further afield from my area of expertise, so take me with a grain of salt, of course. One of the very first things that we ran up against, this happened in 2002, was we got a Digital Millennium Copyright Act complaint, that's the DMCA, and in the United States, if somebody asserts, this is my copyrighted page, you basically have to take that page down, or else you might be held liable for copyright. And it was interesting because we got a DMCA complaint from the Church of Scientology against a site which was anti-Scientology. So now you're suddenly stuck into a very interesting situation. Do you remove this anti-Scientology website? And the first thing we noticed is you can refine your policies. So we now have formalized within our DMCA request process the chance to counter-notify. So anybody who says, no, my site does not infringe this other person's copyright, they can do this process called counter-notification, and then Google can put the page back up and we're out of it. It's now between those two parties, A and B. We don't have to worry about it. So we basically can beef up our policies and improve things that way. The next step is if somebody, for example, lives outside the United States and is not willing to counter-notify because that might make them subject to United States law and maybe they live in Norway or something like that, we include disclosure. So maybe you do have to remove the search results, but at the same time you can say, due to a legal obligation, we've had to remove 3 search results from this page. Click here to find out more information. And that can go to Chilling Effects where you can see the text of the DMCA, stuff like that. Now we made that change in 2002 so that when we removed the site on the basis of copyright, people could still find out context. And having disclosure so people at least know what they're not getting often helps quite a bit. It is tough because there are a lot of different laws, and at the same time, Google is a global organization. You can Google in many, many, many different languages, and so we absolutely do have to respect the law of the land. And yet, at the same time, we want to do as much as we can for users to give them as much information as we can give them about a particular situation or give them context. So it definitely is a delicate balance.
Yeah, the Googlers I met in China were all just as passionate about search. It was interesting. Most of them were native Chinese but educated in the U.S., so they had that interesting balance in both worlds. And it was interesting too because I asked them, what's the biggest problem that you're facing here? Thinking it was government interference. And in fact, they said, no, it's organized crime. There were spammers actually, trying to pollute their index. Yeah, so it seems to be a universal problem.
Yeah, well, I have to say we've had a very large focus on Chinese search quality this year, and so we've got the graph that basically shows spam going way, way down. And so, until you have a really good service that is spam-free, those are the first things that you have to confront. And it's really pretty rewarding to work with people in China and work with people on our team to try to make sure that the search quality in every language is as good as it can be.
So, you'll like this question, I'm sure. Daniel Brand at Google Watch claims that you once worked for the NSA and that you have a top secret clearance. And of course that's a big part of your work at Google. True?
I'll break that down. There's no military industrial complex, direct line to the government or anything like that I have anything at all to do with. So when I was a college student, I did a co-op tour, which is basically you would work for a semester and then you'd go to school for a semester with the Department of Defense. And I did have a security clearance at that time. It's lapsed. So if I were to walk up to the front door now, they'd show me the hand and say, sorry, go around to the museum over here. So there's no connection whatsoever. When I was in college, it sounded like it would be a very cool job to try out and see what it was like to do something like that. I'm glad I did it But I have to say, I really enjoy working at Google, and I prefer working at Google now. So yeah, people don't need to worry about black helicopters or any sort of information like that. And in fact, whenever the Department of Defense or the Department of Justice did a subpoena for user-related search data, they did it to something like 34 different companies or 33 different companies, and Google was the only one that declined. And I was very happy to participate in that because I did the affidavit or the statement that basically said, no, this would be an invasion of privacy and it's a very bad idea, and the judge agreed with that. So the lawyers and all the people at Google care very much about user privacy, and users need to come first. And that results in the sort of trust that makes people loyal and come back to Google long term.
So you're not a spook?
I'm not a spook.
No.
No.
So you're a Google insider. You know what's going on. What are some of your favorite Google services and tools? What are things that you like to play with?
Okay, I'll go for an obscure one first. How many people in the room use Google Browser Sync? Oh, you need to try this service. What it lets you do, okay, how many people in this room use Firefox? Basically saturation at this point. Okay. So what Google Browser Sync lets you do is, suppose you've got a laptop, maybe you've got a work computer, and maybe you've got a home computer. And you've got 10 or 15 favorite sites you go to, bookmarks, you've got your passwords. Google Browser Sync will keep all of that in sync for you. So you can have your passwords on your home computer and then go to your work computer and it will remember your passwords for you. You can have your bookmarks on your laptop and then your home computer will keep it for you. It's incredibly handy. If you're worried about privacy, if you're worried about stuff like that, you can encrypt it so that the data only goes up to Google and goes down to your computer and Google can't even get access to it. So there's no privacy implications whatsoever. But it's just like incredibly handy to be able to hit your same bookmarks where you go. My laptop last week died. The networking hardware completely went out on it. And so here I am at the help stop, at Google, and I'm like, okay, I leave to go to the UK tomorrow. Help, please, give me at least a laptop, any laptop. And they worked really hard to get me a laptop, and it was great. So the very first thing I did was install Google Browser Sync, and boom, I've got all my bookmarks. I can basically get around Gmail, calendar, do all my work. So it's really nice. I love Google Reader. Does anybody use Google Reader? Cool. Bloglines is a great product, but for me, Google Reader works very well. And I also enjoy Gmail and Calendar because when your laptop goes kaput, it's really handy not to have all that data stored on your hard drive. You just walk over to an internet cafe or walk over to another computer, and you can just get 8 hours of work done on anybody else's computer, and that's really handy.
You mentioned bloglines. What are some of the tools and services from some of the other majors that you like to play with?
Oh, that's a good question. I certainly enjoy Yahoo Site Explorer. I think the fact that it gives you backlinks and lets you explore backlinks is very cool. And it's nice that Google's Webmaster Console also added the ability to look at your backlinks. So you can look at a couple different views of your backlinks. You can see what Yahoo sees. You can see what Google sees. So that's something within the last week or so. You can now download an Excel file with a very large fraction of backlinks that Google knows about. We're only going to add more backlinks over time, and we'd like to get to basically 100% backlinks relatively soon. So look for that to keep improving. I enjoy MSN's image search. I think it's cool that they're trying out different user interfaces. It's kind of fun to be able to have the infinite scroll and to choose the level of detail that you look at. From Ask, I do like bloglines. I think hiring Jerry Price was very smart. He's basically a power librarian / blogger, librarian first, blogger second. One of the hardest working men in search. His blog could just drown you. It's got so much good information on it. So I think hiring him was a very good call. And I also like their smart answers. So we've played around with similar things inside Google, but on Ask you can search for a blogger's name like Matt Cutts, and it will actually give you their RSS feed and maybe some of their recent blog posts. And I think that's a nice feature. If you're looking for information about a blogger, you probably want their last few blogs. So there's definitely a lot of innovation, a lot of people trying different things in the search space, and that's very helpful. You want strong competition so that users get the best results and everybody's on their toes and working hard.